Little tweaks and giant wins. Consistently, time and time again. I've been working on me, making little tweaks. I'm on a winning streak, making little tweaks 1 inch at a time. Create giant wins, I know it because I'm living my best life, living better than good. Welcome to the podcast with Jill Underwood. This is another episode of Little Tweaks and Giant Wins.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of Little Tweaks, Giant Wins. I'm your hostess, Jill Underwood, and have I got a treat for you today. Shannel Rivera is such a badass, full of sass, which we will get into in a minute. And she is joining me on this beautiful Friday afternoon. Shannel, welcome.
Hello. Thank you for having me here.
I think that you are just so cool. We met in a very random manner, and you live in Vegas, Nevada, maybe?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Tell the world about just a quick little bit about you and what you do and your background.
Yeah. So first of all, thank you for having me here. Super excited.
It's my pleasure.
Yeah. So right now, I'm the CEO and founder of a company called Beauty and Hustle. And it really took on a life of its own. And where that comes from is I grew up in Los Angeles, and I was kind of part of like gang culture, all of those things. And I just always thought it was normal. Poverty was kind of, my jam. And I didn't need for nothing, but I didn't realize these circumstances in which I was raised until later in life, but it was totally fine. This is not a sob story. It taught me a lot about hustling and how to create businesses and all of that by watching, drug deals and all kinds of different things happen in my life. So I fast forward, I got this crappy job at FedEx because I had quit after the recession. I had quit my waitressing job at the Cheesecake Factory. And I was actually looking for a job for my boyfriend at FedEx at the time. And I got hired and I was like, oh my God, what is this? I was making $9 an hour. I was already an adult. And I was like, okay, well, if I'm going to be at FedEx, I'm going to be the best. Right. And I very, 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 very quickly started getting promoted, got my own store, became a district manager. And it was really in that moment that I witnessed and saw all of this great success that would happen by touching things and like using this crazy brain that I've always had. And I became the number one district manager at FedEx really quickly. So I had got promoted from part-time team member, $9 an hour, to district manager within 4 years. And I turned it around and I was just so excited. This was the moment, right? We go to school, we get married, we have the 9 to 5, we're successful, right? And I felt like crap. I felt so alone. I felt so isolated. I always felt like I wasn't good enough. The majority of my counterparts were male. They were predominantly white men. They were much older than me. And so I just got all of this critique and judgment all of the time, not based off of skill set or results or metrics, just based off of who I was. And so I started Beauty and Hustle at my kitchen table thinking, I'm awesome. Like, I know I'm awesome and I feel like complete crap. So there has to be at least one other woman that feels this way. And so I started it really as a makeup community, and it's taken on a life of its own from there. We have a full-on boutique. We have a cosmetic line. We do coaching services. We host retreats. We do all of these things. But the premise is that no woman sits alone. So if you don't belong at that table, build your own table and allow women to show up at that table, save her a seat with no judgment and with no fear of dreaming too big. That is not in our repertoire, right? Whatever you can dream, we want to support that. And maybe we are shooting for the moon and we need to baby step to that. But that's really like where I came from and where I'm at now. I have, a 7-figure business that I literally started it out of desperation for myself and for my mental health. And I'm just really proud of what we've been able to create in the last 6 years.
Wow, that is quite a story. I'm so digging that. You said poverty was what you knew. You didn't know anything different. So as you went from poverty to now, with revenue of seven figures, how did you learn to handle that? That's huge, right? So where did you and how did you learn to be like, okay, yes, I am worthy and I do know what to do with this. Where did that come from?
So a lot of that comes from my parents. So in my younger years, my mom was a single mom. I grew up in the living room in a bunk bed of my grandma's house. And like we
Oh
all lived,
my.
my mom, her brother, her sister, my grandma, my grandpa, we were all in this little tiny house, right? And so my mom was a single mom, and then she met my stepdad, he's been here for 26 years. He's my dad now. But I got to witness firsthand people that have came from nothing, literally just stack on stack on stack on stack. And like my parents, I'll never forget it. We every summer we moved. So when my mom first married my stepdad, we had this crappy little apartment, but it felt so good, right? Like this is our first time we have our own place. And my mom was already older. I think I was like in eighth grade already, right? So I'm older. And every single summer from that point forward, we moved. And then it was a townhouse. Then they rented a house and then they bought their first home. And I got to witness that. And I got to see them really struggle together and become a team that was like, screw this. Now my parents live, I call it their mini mansion, right? Like, and it's really cool to sit back and just witness my parents bask in all of the glory of what they've worked so hard for. And
Aw.
I really learned a lot of that skills from being able to watch that firsthand. And I made a lot of mistakes. I made a ton of mistakes. I've hit seven figures and then I've went back to broke. So, it's not like because I was being frivolous and I went and bought a Lamborghini, but I've made bad business deals. I've lost over $100,000 last year with a bad business partner. So I think it comes from a lot of mistakes and also seeing firsthand somebody else do it and knowing, okay, if my parents can do this, so can I. And I know it's not easy. And if anyone's listening, to know that's not easy, but know that money is literally everywhere.
Mm.
It's everywhere, but we get this distorted reality that, you know, oh my God, $30 an hour at this corporate job, I'll be set free. And then you're like, what the hell? I can't live off. I was making six figures at FedEx and I couldn't afford to buy a home in LA.
Mm.
And I remember calling my parents, like literally having a midlife crisis, going, I'm such a loser. Somebody tell me how to fix this. Because I just wanted to buy my own home. Like I felt like for me, that was like the end game for me, right? Like to say I own property. And I had to move. I moved, 4 or 5 hours away to Vegas to be able to accomplish that dream. So, sometimes there's sacrifice, but watching it firsthand and knowing that it's possible was like the gateway for me, if that makes sense.
That does make sense. Wow. So here's what I see a lot of people, especially women, that we struggle with. We struggle with those failures, or somebody said something bad to us, or somebody, dogged us on social, some mistake that we made. So you talked about, your failures and losing $100,000 deal last year. What goes on in your head that helps you to get out of that hole that that you're in, and how fast does it happen to you? Does that
Yeah,
make
that's a
sense? Because
yeah,
we as
totally.
women will stay in that hole, I
Yeah,
think, way too long. And
absolutely.
I want to help people to figure out what voices in our head or what we do to get out of that nasty little hole, that deep dark place faster. What do you do?
Yeah. So let me preface this with saying I have severe anxiety and major
Okay.
panic attacks.
Oh,
Um,
really? Okay.
yeah, and I suffer from depression. And
Mm.
so for me, I feel like my deep dark hole is way deeper and darker than most people's dark hole. Not like I'm comparing it in some sick way, but so there's a couple of things that I've done and that I've honed in to help me. The first one is this mantra that I use it every day. Every day, if I wake up feeling, anxiety or, like the night that I was literally robbed of $100,000 of inventory, I can't even fathom saying that.
Oh,
Did I even have $100,000 of inventory that belonged to me? Because that's 5 years ago, I would have laughed at you, right? Like, how do I make that happen, right? The mantra that I use is I have blessings all around me and more blessings are coming because that's scientific in my brain, right? The science says, Shannel, you do have the blessings you've prayed for. You do have a roof. You do have your health. You do have food. I remember having to check my bank account every time I got gas. I don't have to do that anymore. So that mantra reminds me like, okay, while this sucks, it does not negate the fact that this sucks real bad in this moment. But science is telling me to look around and say that there are blessings everywhere. And then science has proven to me that blessings will always come my way. Right. So if I can remember that even in my deepest, darkest trench, it helps my brain a little bit, right? And then I meditate. I don't meditate like a normal, like, cross my legs and put my hands up and
mm-hmm.
find ways that
My legs
meditate.
don't cross that way.
Yeah, neither do I. But I've found ways, like maybe it's taking the dogs for a quick walk and just not like focusing on their movement, right? Like be hyper focused on, wow, their lungs are contracting. I can see them breathing. They don't care. They have no idea I lost $100,000 and they don't care.
Mm.
So it's those little things where I try to get hyper focused on watching something else to remind myself that in the grand scheme of things, this too shall pass, right? Like science tells me I've survived 100% of my bad days, right? And God willing, I'm gonna wake up tomorrow and I'm gonna figure it out. So it's really meditation, mantras like that, but also trusting that I can overcome. So I don't necessarily need to trust you or trust my next business partner 100,000% or trust that if I buy stock in something that it's going to be great. What I can do is trust that I know how to overcome any type of situation that's going to be thrown my way, So those are things that, and you know what? Honestly, some days still suck, right? That's
That's the way of the world, man. Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's the honest truth, but those are things that help me cope in a really, really big way.
Is that what you teach in your coaching?
It is. So I teach something that I teach is a formula called SAS. And it's something that I thought of after I left FedEx when people are like, dang, like you have all these different businesses, you had all this success at FedEx that everyone was just so puzzled about. How did you do that? And SAS stands for strategy, authenticity, and soul. And I firmly believe that in any relationship, in any business, any workplace, anything that you're trying to get success at, you need all three of those components. And the soul piece is the piece that we miss a lot. And where I come from, meditation and woo 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 and mantras and affirmations, that was very different. That wasn't, I wasn't taught those things. Those are things that I've learned over the last 6, 7 years in entrepreneurship.
Mm-hmm.
I try to teach that through SAS in that soul piece. Because if our soul is uneasy or unaligned with what we're doing, nothing will ever work, ever. And also teaching sometimes things don't work on purpose. And that is a hard, right? Like that's such a hard pill to try to swallow that you know what, Jill, we know that you're, the mortgage queen, and then you're going to like try to go do a taco truck because you love tacos or whatever. And that doesn't work. And you're like, but I'm Jill, I'm smart. I know how to do this. I know my tacos are good. But sometimes the universe is like, that's not.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to just have way more faith in the powers that be than I have in humanity, right? Like I have to know that there's a bigger scheme of things. And so I do teach that in the soul piece of our coaching business.
Tell me about the strategy and the authenticity part of your SaaS.
Yeah. So strategy, what I find particularly with women in business are a lot of women are innately good at something, right? So maybe it's sales. And so they get really good at selling, I don't know, clothes or whatever, but they're really throwing spaghetti at the wall. And maybe they haven't had the operational knowledge to have KPIs, right? Key performance indicators or metrics or anything for them to actually say, hey, here's what's working really well in your business, here's what's not. And so I like to teach them the strategies and the metrics that they should be evaluating on a weekly, monthly, quarterly, and yearly basis in order to get more bang for their buck, but also to understand if it's really profitable. Because I was doing direct sales for about 3 years, and a lot of these women were doing 30 grand, 50 grand, $100,000 a month, but they weren't doing a profit and loss statement. So they weren't able to articulate if they were actually doing a good job, where the money was really coming from, what is your best seller? Like they could say, oh, well, I sell a lot of this, but like, does that make you the actually most money or not? So I like to teach them the strategy part, and the authenticity part is really about being yourself and stop comparing yourself to others.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I look at you and I go, well, look at her. She's making all this money doing mortgages. So I try to emulate that, but that's not really my jam and it doesn't work. And then we get frustrated because you and I are equally as smart, but we're also equally as not smart in certain areas, right? So like we got to do what's right for us. And a big part of the authenticity part is the branding part of it. Knowing who your ideal customer is and speaking to them, like literally speaking to their soul, where when they connect with you, they're so connected. And I like to tell people, mission over commission. Like I only work with people that I fucking love. Like I love
Mm-hmm.
and you love me. Let's do this. Because to me, eliminating chasing dollars, but chasing results for others is just I get way more excited about that. So that's the authenticity part of your branding. And a lot of people think that branding is like this cute little logo and maybe a color or a font, but I like to teach people that your branding is truly how people feel after they've done business with you.
Mm.
How do they feel in the moment? But when they walk away, right? When they leave that retreat, when they get back on the plane, my brand is the stories that they're telling themselves after that moment. And so I think if you can just, think about it in that terms, you can look at branding as such a bigger box than a lot of people explain it as.
That's a beautiful way to explain branding. I don't know that I've ever heard it explained that way. And I love that. Do you think that, let me rephrase that. I think back in my career and growing up and being in the mortgage business in my 20s and my 30s. Do you, and I don't know that I learned authenticity back then. Do you think authenticity and knowing that and figuring out who you are in business, no matter what industry you're in, do you think that comes with age, or is it just with, who you were raised by or where you grew up? How do people truly find and figure out their authentic self?
Yeah. I do think things come with age. I do think that we learn a lot from the environments in which we're raised. Because, and I know from personal experience, I put myself back through college while I already had a career, right? And I remember staying up and reading these books about branding and, you know, core values and all of these things and going like, oh, wait, I was already doing that. No one ever taught me. It came instinctually to me, right? But I think the easiest way, if you're somebody listening and thinking, wow, I haven't really thought about it that way, I always start with core values. What's the most important
Mm,
thing to you, right? What are your core
yep.
values? And what are your brand's core values? Because they're not always the same, right? They may be very parallel, right? But what's important to Shannel Rivera may be a little bit different than what's important to Beauty and Hustle, right? So I think that the other thing that I always tell people to write down is make a list of non-negotiables.
Mm-hmm.
Non-negotiable. Like Beauty and Hustle will not do business. I don't care if you're going to give me $1 million deal. I'm not going to do anything that has a track record of not empowering women. Or, if there's any slight sense of like, I'm not going to go and be a part of something that is not completely aligned with my brand. That is a non-negotiable for me. Even if somebody offered me a ton of money, I don't want to do that because I want people to know who we are. Like we're going to show up. You're going to know exactly who I am. There's never going to be any confusion as like, well, why is she doing that event when that doesn't really, speak to her brand? Like that, we're not going to do any of that. Right. So I think that those are the two things you can start with as your core values as a person and your core values as a brand. And then what are your non-negotiables? And really like get to the nitty gritty of non-negotiables, because for me, I've coached thousands of women and I always tell them your why can't be your why not. Right. So you can't say, I'm going to start this business because I love my kids and I want to be a better mom. And then use your kids as an excuse and then use your work to not go hang out with your kids like that. It's this really detrimental triangle that happens all of the time and at no fault to anyone because nobody's teaching us that boundaries, right? What are the boundaries to what I'm doing? And sometimes it is, hey, mommy has these 3 calls today, but as soon as we're done, then because I do that and because you cooperate with me, I get to spend the next 6 hours with you, or, I get to take you to basketball practice. So I think really understanding like the root of who you are and why you're doing things way beyond just what they teach. Like, what's your why, right? Because we all say, oh, it's my family. Your family what? Because if you're working so hard and you're saying that your why is your family, but you haven't been to basketball practice, you haven't went to soccer, you haven't done any of the things that in your brain, now your brain is programmed to think that you're a liar because you've been telling yourself, oh, I'm working. And that's not to say that we don't sacrifice sometimes, right? That comes with the territory, but like there has to be that balance or we burn out and our brain is like, you're a liar. I don't want to work this hard. And I know I've been there many times. I almost got divorced this summer. Like
Yep.
because I kept telling my brain, well, I'm working this hard so we can have all this nice stuff and that we can do all this stuff. And I was neglecting my marriage. And it'd be very easy for me to just blame my husband. He's not innocent, right? He has work to do, but so do I. And so I think as a woman, when things start crumbling, we start to blame everything else because we are working hard and we've programmed our brain that I'm in the work mode. I'm doing this for us. How do you not appreciate this? How do you not appreciate me? But at the end of the day, we have to have boundaries with work too, because
Mm-hmm.
it's so important to do the things that really makes us happy or we burn out. And quite frankly, we destroy everything in our path. And it's really sad. I see it all the time. And it's not on purpose. And I almost did it too. And I'm very cognizant of what happens. I watch it happen all the time.
Yep.
So it's just it's it's a fine line, but something that, if you're really dialed into that. And for people that do have kids and marriages and all of that, like do core values for your family too. Because
Yep.
so important for them to say, oh, okay, so mommy and daddy or mommy, whatever, whoever you love, right? They work really hard, but they always take us to Disneyland every 3 months, whatever, so that your kids now are being taught to have core values too. So,
That I was about to say that it's important to have, my Jill core values. It's important to have my Jill team mortgage queen core values, but there's also core values that I have with my man, you
yeah,
know? So I totally get that. And I know for me, man, I mean, even in the busiest season, I mean, last year was the busiest year on the planet during a stinking pandemic, right? But I would never work past 8 p.m. 7 p.m. was really what I wanted to do. But if I had to go to 8 to make sure everything got done, that was it. But I'm one of those, man. I want to be home every night for dinner with my man, you
yeah,
know? And date night is every Wednesday. For a little bit this year, we had to move it to Thursday, but date night is every single week without fail because that's our special time.
Yeah.
And my realtor partners, I mean, I tell them if you need something on a Wednesday night, I'm sorry, it's date night.
Yeah.
It's going to have to wait. If you need me on Wednesday night, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Right. And it's
Yeah.
fair.
Well,
That's fair to have
yeah.
that
Well,
life
it's
balance.
so powerful too. Like, think about it, because I'm sure the first time you said that to your peers, they're like, that's dumb, like in their head, right? But you have now allowed them permission to do the same thing, because we do that with our clients too, right? Like, oh, well, my hard stop is at 8 and I don't answer my phone. I'm not going to. And you know what, Jill, you shouldn't either. So it's this like full circle moment of you're giving yourself permission, but you're also giving the people around you permission and proof that it can be done.
Yeah.
Your
Right. And still have a
business,
lovely business.
yeah,
Right.
your business isn't
Hmm.
suffering for it. If anything, your business is probably doing better because you have hard stops, right?
Yes.
This is my hard stop. I'm going to go hard all day,
Yeah.
but this is my hard stop.
Because we do have to take time to rest. And I
Absolutely.
don't, I've got a setting on my phone. Nothing happens on my phone for that 8-hour period where I'm supposed to be sleeping. And if I'm laying in bed and there's stuff going through my head, I have to tell myself, I have to calm myself, shut down my brain and tell my brain, Jill, there's nothing you can do right now. Right now, the clock says it's time to sleep. That can wait.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And I know a lot of people, I think women especially, struggle with shutting down our brains at night.
Yeah.
And we need that to refresh ourselves.
Yeah. And I
So,
always tell people, if you have a hard time, so I have really bad insomnia, I've got really bad ADHD. So sleep is hard for me. But I literally started to pencil in. It sounds ridiculous, but like, okay, this is my time to go on TikTok and just scroll.
yeah.
This is my hour. Like, nobody's gonna bother me. I love TikTok because nobody knows that I exist there, which is really cool. If I'm on Facebook, people
Aw.
harassing me, not like harassing me, but you know what I mean. Right? I feel obligated to answer people. So I just go, but maybe that's for you. It's reading a book. Maybe it's, having a dance party. And maybe it's not an hour. Maybe it's 20 minutes. Maybe it starts off with 10 minutes. But like scheduling in time for you and saying, okay, if I had this schedule with somebody else, I would be fully present and I would be paying attention. But why is it that the time that I'm scheduling in for me, I'm just, that doesn't make any sense. So it's really important that we take care of ourselves.
I agree 100%. That's valuable. All right. So tell me something that's super, super cool that is happening in your life right now, or something that you're super passionate about. What's going on right now in your life? That's amazing.
Yeah, so we just came off, I would say, the roughest year of my career in retail. Not because business wasn't booming, just because of everything that transpired,
Right.
bad deals and all that. But right now, I'm in a really good place where I'm resting, I'm taking care of myself, and we're just getting ready to go back into the coaching space. So pre-COVID, we were doing about 8 to 10 retreats a year. We were
Mm.
them out within like a day or two, sold out, wait list, all the things. We were actually getting ready to buy a property just for retreats because we were spending all this money. I'm like, I'm literally paying somebody's mortgage for like 3 months by renting this house for a weekend. So, my business brain was like, let's buy a property. And unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, I don't know, but right before we were going to get a retreat home, the pandemic hit. So we're really excited to right now be starting back to getting our coaching clients back on our rosters and be able to launch our next retreat that's coming up in January 2022.
Ah,
And
tell me more about
just,
that.
yeah, they're just my favorite thing in the whole wide world.
Oh,
People all pandemic, people said, go online, do it virtually. And I said, I don't want to. And they're like, well, you're leaving money on the table. I probably am. But you know what? I don't care. Why? Because mission over commission. I don't want
yep.
somebody to experience the virtual one and be like, I don't know what's the big deal, right? There's something so magical about having anywhere from 15 to 25 women in a house where they all share, right? They share the estate for the whole, usually it's gone up to about 5 days now because everyone's like, make it longer, make it do more. Like, okay. I always try to be respectful of people's time. So at first it was a day and a half and people were like, make it longer. So now it's at like 5 days. But there there's just magic when you have this room full of women that are all so brilliant in their own right, but they're all wanting more from life and feel like they don't have the support system in order to do that. And so the retreat really acts as a vessel, not just for them to come and get information on how to do things, right? But to connect with other like minded business women. And most importantly, to reconnect to self.
Mm-hmm.
Disconnect from that so much. And so we teach a lot in those weekends. They're long, they're 9 a.m. till 9 p.m. They're a long weekend, but it's just the most amazing thing that a woman will ever experience. And I don't say that lightly, right? Like I used to be afraid to say that, but we've done so many of them. It will literally change your life. And for me as a teacher, a mentor, a coach, it feels so good to be able to hold that space for women and really serve out my purpose, because I feel like that's what I was put here to do, is for me and you to sit in a room and say we're very different but we're really much the same and I love you. And even if we were in the same competing industry, we are not each other's competitions. We're our sisters.
Right.
The whole world tries to tear us down. We have enough critics and we're our own worst critic.
Oh,
So
yes.
yeah, when you can sit in the house with other women that connect with you on just such a deep level, it's just the most amazing experience. And I cannot wait. I'm just like, oh, I love
Like, where
love
do I
all
sign
my
off?
yeah. Yes, you need to come to it. It's so good. Like I love all of my businesses for different reasons, but this is what I was put here for. Also, I'm very intuitive. It's something that I was very, very
You
nervous
are.
to explain or even tell people for so long. And being in person with somebody, I literally can download things that, like, I can hear their a favorite song, or I can feel exactly what they need to hear, and I can hear things to give messages that I used to say I have no idea where they're coming from, right? But intuitively they're being downloaded from the universe that that woman needs to receive this information right now. So being in person for that, and being I've been able to look a woman in the eye and have her whole life just is just the most powerful thing. And I'm just so blessed to have that gift and be able to help women in that way.
So where's this retreat going to be?
The next retreat is going to be in Vegas,
Okay.
and we're nailing down the dates right now. So it'll probably be like mid-January. We really want to do something that will kick off the first of the year and get people aligned. And yeah, you're going to leave with business plans and better branding, but it's that connection to self. I've had people come to these retreats thinking, oh, I want to get a better branding plan and a 30, 60, 90-day plan for my clothing boutique, right? And they've left and been like, I'm going back to law school. Like, that's how powerful it is, because they're like, I thought I wanted this, but after talking about it, I don't really want that. So how do I get what I really came for out of life? And I've had people quit their side hustles and just go back to being an amazing mom. I've had people like, well, my husband makes a lot of money and I thought I would feel so good of doing the side hustle, and I feel like crap because I just want to be a really good mom. And it's like, so be a good mom. So there's business weaved into it. It's really about connection to self and figuring out um, the SaaS for your life, right? Not just for your business, but what's the strategy for Jill? What's the authentic story, right? And how do we break all of those limiting beliefs to be able to show up as Jill with no shame, no guilt, right? I see your brain like, right? Like, because I used to be I wish I could, I'll show you pictures later, but at FedEx, I started wearing gray. I would wear all gray. I wore no makeup. I threw my long, beautiful hair in a bun, slick back, almost like I was in the army. But I tried to fit in so bad because I knew I was so good and I wasn't getting the respect. I was being told that my shirts were too bright and that my lipstick was too pink and that my boobs were too big and that I should really lose some weight. And I felt so depleted by that. And so the retreat really teaches women how to drop all of that shit and
Yep.
just be yourself. And now I'm so happy. Like I can't imagine my life still at FedEx, not even because of how I was treated, but because I wasn't being authentic to myself. And I just want to show up. And if people don't like me, how many people don't like me on the internet? I do not care. Because the people that do like me are my people. They love 100% of me. They love that sometimes the F word comes out of my mouth. They love that I'm always dyeing my hair crazy color. They love that sometimes, I'm going to look crazy with some crazy makeup, or sometimes I'm just going to show up looking homeless. Like they love me authentically. And I don't have to worry about, oh gosh, like, can I wear this? Can I speak about my past? I'm just going to show up. And if you don't like me, that's okay. But that's hard. That's a hard lesson.
That was one of my biggest struggles in my younger years was, oh no, wait, everybody likes me, right? Well, that turns out
Yeah.
they don't.
Yeah.
And
And
and it's like, yeah, and I'm finally to the point where, I really don't care. That phrase, somebody taught me this last year, is what you think of me is none of my business, you know?
yeah.
But
And once you realize what people don't like about you is not about you, it's what
it's
they
not,
like about themselves.
it's really their own mirror.
Yes.
It
And
really
I
is.
mean, the
Hmm.
louder and the louder you are, the more triggered people are by you. People are so triggered by me. And if they would spend 5 minutes to understand who I really am, they would just be smitten with me because I'm pretty awesome, right? That's how I have to think though.
Yeah.
I always compute like that, right? Sometimes I'm like, oh my God, maybe it's me. Maybe I'm a bad person. And my poor husband and my mom and my best friend are like, Shannel,
Right.
you teach this stuff. And I'm like, but it's so hard,
Yep.
So I can say all of that with confidence. However, even those of us that teach that, it's still hard, because that's how we're raised. Is we're brought up where like you want to be popular, you want to be the one that people love. And I something that I'm teaching my assistant DJ that I'm just like so thankful for her every day.
I love her. She's adorable.
I love her so much. Is like, let's focus on the 99 people that love you so much, and let's send light and love to the one girl that doesn't, and pray for her, whatever you believe in. But like, let's stay focused on the big number.
Yep.
Um, and if that big number starts to sway where everyone starts to go against you, yes, sometimes there is time to look inwardly and say, hey, have I changed?
Yep.
Am I not living authentically? Am I not doing it? And so something I teach DJ to ask herself when she's feeling like that is, what was your intention? If she comes and she's like, oh, I this girl's mad at me. And I'm like, well, what was your intention with that conversation or that interaction? Was it bad? Because if it is, then we got to do the work for ourselves, right? And she's like, no, like she just didn't understand it or whatever, And I'm like, then you can speak your piece, but knowing your true intention was pure, you can't beat yourself up about it.
Yep. Yep. Because people have their own issues. People have their own, you know, little voice in their head that they can't always overcome. So, wow, that's powerful, girl. That just really is. Um, you're a keynote speaker too?
Yes.
Talk to
I
me.
Yeah, I can't wait to get back onto the speaking scene too, because again with COVID, and I hope that anyone that's listening right now, there's gonna be times where things don't work out, and it's because the universe is putting you into a different place, right? It's like that didn't work. But there's also times where things don't work out because they're beyond your control, and it's going to push you to understand how bad you want something, right? And so I feel like with the pandemic, it really solidified to me how much I love retreats, how much I love speaking on stage, how much I love focusing on impact of others, right? And a stage is for me being able to hit people that don't even know I exist in a way where they can be changed forever. And I know, as somebody that has went to lots of conferences and business conferences, direct sales conferences, women have this, whatever. I know that there's not a lot of people that look like me on stage, if anyone, right? I mean, women of color have Oprah and Lisa Nichols, right? And I really don't have anybody that looks like me. And so I knew that I wanted to start to become that person that little girls can say, look at her, she's from the hood, like she made it out. She's fine. Like, look at her, I can do this too. And I just think that keynote speaking just allows me to touch people that I ordinarily wouldn't have the pleasure of being in front of, and asking for their permission to seep into their brain for 30 minutes to an hour, and being able to turn on some light bulbs for people that ordinarily would not have a connection with the person on stage, right? There's not a lot of plus size speakers. There's not a lot of Hispanic speakers. There's not even a lot of women speakers when you really think about it. And I want every woman to know that, like, you're capable of everything, no matter where, no matter if your body doesn't fit into the standards for right now. Oh, I'm getting older. Like, I'm a freaking beauty blogger that has wrinkles. You know what I mean? So I'm just trying to show women that, like, just don't give up on your dreams. Just keep going. And what's been very interesting is the amount of men that I've been able to impact from stage, which
Oh,
I used to judge myself and think that even if I was in a room with 50-50 men and women, that the men were just going to roll their eyes at me. And what I've learned from stage specifically is that a lot of things that I think that men are going to think is me having a limiting belief and a judgment that I'm putting on myself, and that that's just not true. So it's been a really amazing journey for me to speak in front of men as well, because I've realized that the gifts that the universe has given me are meant to impact everyone, and that women were my first vessel of understanding the immense impact that I can have. And that just because one man somewhere at FedEx treated me badly doesn't mean that every man thinks that about me.
mm.
That's been really eye-opening for me, because I put a lot of pressure on myself that, oh God, there's this man isn't going to take me seriously because I have a hot pink, blazer on. And what I've learned again is my people, men or female, right? They're my people. They don't care that I'm wearing. They think it's cool. Wow, look at her. She's got a cool jacket on. But it's helped me heal from a lot of that trauma that I've experienced when I was at corporate.
Trauma while you're at corporate. That just, why am I not surprised?
Yeah,
The
it
corporate world is
was.
hard.
Yeah.
Yes. So what do you,
Um. Oh
I'm
no.
sorry,
I'll go ahead.
what do you think um, uh, is the hardest thing that you've ever had to recover from? If it doesn't take you down too much of a dark path. But,
Yeah.
because there's so many bad things that people go through, and you talk a lot about limiting beliefs, which
Yeah.
that really hits home with me. So, what is the hardest thing that you've had happen that you had to recover from?
I want to talk about two, and
Okay.
I'll make them short and sweet because they're both very different. Last year with my business partner, she was my best friend. She was my only friend in Vegas because, like I said, I couldn't afford a house in LA, and I moved to Vegas, and I quickly helped her. I helped her grow her business. I was able to help her leave her corporate job. I loved her. Like, she was uh, my best friend. I don't know how else to say that, right?
Mhm.
But we were thick as thieves, and walking into a warehouse that I had with her and seeing that she had, quite frankly, robbed me of everything that I had put my own hard money into,
Mm.
very hard, because I struggled with, I wasn't even mad about money, which was a new limiting belief. Like, how are you not mad about money? I was so upset that I was stupid enough to befriend somebody that would do that to me.
Mm.
And that took me down this like very downward spiral of, Shannel, you teach people this. You're smart. Like, what the hell are you doing? It wasn't about money at all. It was like, how could you be so stupid? These are the things I was thinking. How can you be so smart and so stupid at the same time? And
Mm.
it took me, it literally up until like this month to recover. It's been a year. It was
Oh my.
night. It was my birthday that happened, right? So it's taken me a year. It almost cost me my marriage. It almost cost me my health. I remember thinking so many nights, like, there's just no way I can get out of this. I had this warehouse that was $7,000 a month, and I had this big team, and I had all of these things that I thought I wanted. And as soon as that happened, my brain just spiraled. And it's taken me almost a year to recover from it. Not financially, because I know how to make money. Okay. Like, if there's anything I know how to make money, but spiritually and mentally recover from somebody that you could never imagine life without, and them doing something like that to you, and them being alive, but you're grieving them. That is a huge mind. Like, you're just, because I was so angry at myself, very angry. Like, I'm smart. I've had a lot of bad things happen and people be terrible to me. So I just felt like I should have been smarter than that. So that was
Mm.
my first one. And the second one was being at FedEx, and I was, the number one. I was doing all the things. I was really proud of myself. And again, it goes back to, how are you so smart and so stupid, Shannel, right? Because I remember coming back from a trip that I had earned, and they put me with, instead of my boss for the day, they put me with my peer, which, why is he coming to critique me? I'm better than him. Like, literally, not like that, but like metrics wise. They're like, oh, he's gonna come with you and he's gonna tell you about your stores. And I'm like, why? Like, his team hates him. He makes $20 million less than me, and his stores are dirty. Like, why, so whatever. So he got in the car, and I will never forget it. I literally thought about, how could I crash my car and severely hurt him without hurting myself. Got in the car, and I quickly realized he wasn't there to critique my car. He was there to try to get me to quit.
Oh.
He looked at me and said, oh yeah, I'm going with like the board of directors, blah, 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 whatever, next week. And I'm like, why? Like, why are you going? Why am I not going? And I didn't say it in that way. I was like, oh, that's interesting. That's an interesting decision that they've made, that you're going over somebody that's performing. You know what I mean? And he said, well, Shannel, the problem about you is that you're just too ghetto. That statement has lived with me for the rest of my life, but not in a bad way. Because I'm like, I literally was like, oh, this is when okay, how unsafe can a Mercedes really be? Because this car is about to go into a telephone pole, Because I was just like, oh my God, did he really just tell me this? Right? Like,
Oh.
really happening. And I remember being just so distraught and being like, oh my God, like, I have to get the hell out of here. Like, I can't do this forever. And it stuck with me, but not in the way that he probably hopes that it haunts me in my dreams. But when I left and I quit, it was actually a couple weeks later that I ended up quitting. But I told my boss at the time, she said, if you ever need a woman mentor, let me know. And I said, you know what? You should have been mentoring me this whole time, because look at what I was doing without any help. Imagine if you would have been my biggest cheerleader. We could have taken over the whole FedEx together, right? And she said, well, I'm here for you. And I told her something, and I said, the day that my book is out and you're standing in line, just remember that you're still going to have to stand in line, because, I'm too ghetto to be here. And I walked out. And so that sentence has always just stayed with me, because I know that other people are being told these crazy asinine things in their everyday life. And like, yes, I am kind of ghetto. Okay. Like, if I see you in the street and you wanted to get scrappy, I might not be able to beat you up, but I could call somebody. There's in the desert that I could call somebody for. Right. However, my mental fortitude from that moment forward has been so strong because I am who I am. I'm going to be unapologetic about it. I'm going to make no excuses. I'm not a product of my environment. I'm going to take all the shit that I witnessed in the hood and I'm going to turn it upside down. And that's what I did. I made Beauty and Hustle a 7-figure brand, bootstrap, no loans, no investors, nothing, me by myself. You want to know where that guy is? Still at his shitty job. I make what he makes all year in a month. So he could, I hope he listens to this. I'm sure they all do, right? Like, so here we are. Like, yeah, I'm ghetto, but I made it work for me. So if anyone's listening and has been told these things, take that and make that your superpower, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is a part of me. There's no denying that. Like sometimes the streets come out of Shannel. It's just who I am. I don't know any different, right? But what I witnessed in those years of my life and gang culture of 18th Street Gang and watching the Mexican mafia like do deals, I learned and I apply principles that I learned on the streets in my business. And it's taught me a lot, you know? And I think that the universe then, with this best friend that went defunct, was really testing, street Shannel. And people are like, what, did you call the cops? No, because people from the streets don't call the cops. Well, did you send somebody to hurt her? No.
No.
Because spiritual Shannel knows that karma will always come full circle. For the man that had the audacity to tell me that, and for the woman that had the audacity to leave me in such a shitty place, I still pray for them. And I hope that they find what they're looking for because I know my truth. And I know that they haven't really found theirs yet because I know that they're not innately bad people. They're just making bad decisions, right? So we send them light and love from very far away. And that's all I can do. But those are two things that have really just shaped who I am in such a way that I think that people have sat back for a long time waiting for me to fail. And I think that a lot of people are going to suffocate before they ever see me fail. They are going to choke on all those words. And
Amen.
I'm happy with that, like here I am. You guys dealt me a bunch of bullshit, but I'm still here. And anyone listening has been dealt stuff. Yes, it's probably been, you probably haven't been told you were ghetto, right? You probably may have not been robbed of $100,000 of stuff, but like we've all had those experiences. And it's not what happens to us that makes us, it's how we respond to those things. And I had every reason to not get up and be great after those two things. And I took that and I said, oh, heck no. I'm that as an excuse to be great. And I'm always going to be greater than you. And I'm doing better than both of them put together. So you guys can just have a picnic together, right? And that's easy to say now, but it's taken me a year to recoup, right?
Yep.
So if you're in those trenches, understanding that it's easy for me to say this now, I still have bad days. I still cry. I still want her to be my friend. Even though I'm not smart, like I'm smart enough to not let that happen. I still really love her. I hope her kids are okay. Like I love her because I know who she was and she's turned into a different version of herself. And so it's okay to feel that way. That doesn't make me stupid. It makes me human.
Wow, there's some serious nuggets of wisdom right there, girl. And I have seen you do this on Facebook where you send light and love. And I love that. And I know I love when you say know your truth. And I love when you say that this tell the story about your friend that robbed you because you could align that with a nasty divorce. That when you were telling that story, it reminds me of the big divorce for me. It took me years to recover, and maybe he didn't physically rob me of $100,000, but you know what he robbed me of? Half of my damn retirement. you know
Yeah, that stings.
we right, we were on our way, and then you lose half of your assets in a divorce. And it was a death, and it was robbing of my family. I can
Yeah.
never have that family back together again. So that makes perfect sense. But you know what, there's a phrase that success is the best revenge. Not that I want revenge, on him or anybody that's wronged me. But it's like, watch me,
Yeah.
watch my dust, baby.
Exactly. And eat my dust, okay?
There, that too.
Yeah, what the other thing part of that too is I've had to learn that nobody's like robbing us, right? We're getting rid of the trash so that the people can be in
Yep.
our circle.
Yep.
So I know that you are so much happier now, and
Yep.
right, you have this dreamy man and all of those things. And
I
for
do.
me, I've just learned that like the universe saw that there was so much bigger things that it had to eliminate the things that weren't right, because the universe knows all. It knows all the conversations that happens and all of the intentions that aren't spoken when you're not around. And so it eliminates all of that baggage so that you can be free to actually, grow and be who you're meant to be.
Yep. That is so true. I just adore you. I think you are just one of the coolest people on the planet. And
Oh, thank you.
I can't wait for you're going to write a book someday, right?
Yes, I actually already paid somebody, but I have really bad ADD. So I keep telling DJ, I'm like, okay, we're gonna book like a villa in Mexico, no phones, and we're just gonna go and we're gonna get it done just so I can just get it done. But
Okay. So when you do that, can I come too? Because I'm like writing this book and I have all of these other books inside of me and these ideas. And I have seriously thought about that I just need to like book a place on a beach by myself
yeah,
and go and just let it all flow. And that
yes,
hasn't happened yet. And I've got to finish this dang thing. I've got to finish
yes,
this one. And it's hard. I
it
thought
is
this would
hard.
be so easy, but no, writing this first book has been the hardest thing on the planet. I really feel like once I get past this first one and get my groove,
Yes,
that the rest of them are just going to flow like water.
yes, yeah. I'm excited. I'm excited for you to get it done. On
Yay.
it. I know. I just keep convincing myself
There
that
she is.
yeah, when the time is right, then my book will be written because people aren't ready for it yet. That's what I keep convincing myself. The truth is I have ADD and I need to go get it done.
No, that's no, it's all boiling inside of you. And when the time is right, it's just gonna come out like a volcano for sure. So, well, I'm so excited to have you. You have been an absolute joy. You have an intuition. You are like far how do you what's the phrase? You're like you're far wiser than your years. And I can just see that in you. And you just there are great things in your future.
Thank you.
There really are. I just adore you so much. So,
Thank you
no,
so much for having me here. It's been a pleasure.
I'm gonna come to your retreat. I want the
You
deets.
better, girl.
I want
It's
the
so
deets.
good.
And I really love Vegas and I love that part of the country. And so I totally will come out there and see you. Absolutely.
All right. I'm excited. You will have so much fun.
I know. You're awesome. All right.
Thank
Well,
you.
thanks, honey, for being here. Everybody look up Beauty and Hustle, Shannel Rivera. She is awesome. So follow her, buy her stuff. You've got the online store and everything. Shannel, honey, so good to see you. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. Have a wonderful day.
All right. Thank you, everybody. I'll see you on the next episode. Bye bye.